What's up, everybody? My name is Laura LaFrance, your fashion designer slash textile designer slash everything else. Today I will be showing you how to pull your motif from a repeated pattern. Now this pattern is pretty easy. It's not so difficult. It's just a bunch of squares. Pretty simple, something I've done when I was back in college. Now from the get-go you can tell which one is the motif. Since it's the same square repeated over and over again, it will be quite easy to pinpoint where the motif, that single motif is. Now what I'm going to do right now is pull out my guide so that you can see how I'm pulling out the motif. So that being said, it makes it even easier for me to know, I only need one little piece of square to save as a motif so that I can have a pattern. So now that I have my motif selected, I can go ahead and switch over from my elliptical marquee tool to a rectangular marquee tool and select that specific motif. And once I've selected the motif, I can then save it as a pattern. So of course you go to Edit, Define Pattern, and it will show you exactly the motif that you've chosen. Okay, so now that we have our motif saved in the system, in the memory of Photoshop Cloud, somewhere in there, we can go ahead and open a new file and apply the pattern. 8.5 by 11, I'm okay with that. I just need to test the pattern that was saved. We can do edit, fill, and we can fill it with a pattern and choose that pattern that was created and click OK, and there we go. Now you know how to pull a motif from an easy pattern. Now let's move on to the next one. This one is a little bit more complicated. Not so much, because at first glance I could tell you I can see the repeat. So step one, let's find the repeat. If you've seen the previous videos that I've done where I showed you how to apply flowers in corners so that you can fill the empty space, you will understand why I'm looking for 4 corners. I always look for 4 corners when I look for the motif within a pattern. Finding the specific area to place the guide so that you can pull the motif might be a little bit tricky. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Since I know this is my first flower, I'm going to pull. Here's the thing. The center of the flower doesn't have a circle to use as a guide. So I'm going to use the center of the flower here, exactly at the center. But keeping in mind that my guide will be stopped exactly at this point right here. That way I can remember where to place my guide for the bottom part of the flower. I'm trying to make sure it's exactly on the line. There you go. So now that I've placed this guideline right here, I have to place it exactly at the same location for the flower that is exactly vertically to this flower bunch right here. Okay, the second flower, this motif is a pretty big motif. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in one more time, because I have to find the exact same spot I put the guide so that I can remember that line right here. So this is where I'm going to put my guide one more time. Now that we've done our top and bottom, we can do the side to side and figure out where to put our guide. Since I'm already here on that flower, I am going to use a guide right at the center of the flower bunch, but putting it in a spot where I can mimic for the other side. So if I'm putting my guide exactly at that point here, let's make sure it's very straight. I'm touching that line. A little bit more. Okay, so it's exactly at this point. So I have to make sure on the other side, the other bunch is touching exactly that same spot. So I'm going to go ahead and find the other bunch. There it is. So I'm going to zoom in and put my guide exactly at the same spot. So I have to scroll it over and put it exactly at the same spot. And there it is, you found your motif. There's your motif. So the only thing you have left is to test the motif and make sure everything, that the four corners of your pink flower is actually matching. This is a very big motif. Okay, so there it is. That's the motif, the square, the rectangle rather. So we're going to select that motif and repeat the same process. Edit, define the pattern, and click OK. So what I'm going to do now with this layer, let's call it repeat. I am going to fill it with a color. Edit, fill. Let's fill it with white. I like to keep it simple. And then once we fill it white, we'll go into layer, layer style, pattern overlay. We're only doing this just to test and make sure that the pattern actually works. There it is. So now I'm going to put this to the side, if you would agree with me. And I'm looking at it, it looks pretty good. Of course, I can zoom in and out and determine how well I want my patterns to look. If I want to zoom in at this exact pink flower just to make sure nothing is looking disproportionate, then yeah, it looks pretty awesome. So I'm going to zoom back out. I'm pretty satisfied with the look, and then click save. That would be option number 2. Now, we can do a more advanced one, which would be this one, which I think popped up already for me to show you. This one looks a little bit complicated, but if you remember the tool that I've done, the same step, look for 4 corners. I already see the 4 corners, so I know the pattern, the motif rather, is literally right here. If you can find the element that's repeated, you should be fine. So this element right here has been repeated, and I already noticed the 4 corners, so now it's up to me to determine where I want to stop it and match it to that specific point. Right here, the pattern is not really a 300 resolution because I took the motif from a JPEG, so I have to kind of go by pixels and stop at a specific spot and make sure I mimic exactly that spot. I'm gonna go a little bit faster now. I don't have to take it step by step now that you know how to do it. I'm going to find the repeat, zoom right on in, and put my guide exactly at the same spot. I think it was at the shaded area. I'm gonna zoom back out, potentially put it, maybe, it really doesn't matter where I put it as long as I match it on the other side. So I'm gonna have to zoom in so that I can match it to maybe here. Let's see, here. And I'm gonna have to zoom out again and remember exactly where I stopped, find the other repeat, and zoom in, put my guide exactly at the same spot, and I should be fine. There we go. Zoom back out, bam, there goes your motif. I'm gonna test it out. Select the motif, edit, define my pattern. Of course, it's already been saved, but I'm gonna re-save it just to make sure this one has been right, and get out of the marquee tool selection, create a new layer, turn that off, clear my guides. You can keep them together, it doesn't matter, I like to clear them. Edit, fill, let's do a color, which is white, and layer style, pattern overlay, and let's test it out and see. I'm going to go and select that one because this is the new one that we selected, not this one. We're going to select this one, and let's zoom in and out just to make sure everything is looking up to par. It looks great. I don't have any complaints. The motif looks okay, so I'm good to go. So if I'm looking at this print and I'm thinking, oh, this is so difficult, I cannot find the repeat. Yes, you can. You can see the flowers, not the flower, the abstract space thing is repeated multiple times, so you can pick it up from there. And there you go, there you have it. You have now learned how to pull a motif from a complex pattern, not so complex pattern, and an easy pattern. I hope this video was helpful. If you like the video, give it a thumb up. Of course, subscribe so I can keep the videos coming and follow my journey. Alrighty, have a wonderful rest of the week. I'll see you guys next time.